My life looks perfect from the outside. A good husband, a beautiful colonial house in suburban Boston, and a career that keeps me busy. 12 years of marriage to a man who cherishes me more than I ever thought anyone could. His name is James Mitchell. He's kind, thoughtful, steady. You'd like him if you met him. Most people do. But there's a silence between us, one that has grown louder with every passing year. We don't fight, we don't yell, we don't have those dramatic moments you see in movies where plates are thrown and doors slam. Instead, we have a quiet affection, a partnership built on respect and understanding. Or maybe it's more like endurance. James loves me in his way, and I love him in mine. I know that sounds strange, maybe even sad, but I can't deny the truth of it. We've built a life together, a good life, a life I don't want to lose. Yet there's a part of me, a part I've tried to bury, that feels like it's withering away. It's been 10 years since we've had sex. 10 years. I was 30 when we stopped. Do you know what it feels like to close your eyes at night and know that kind of intimacy is gone? To lie next to someone you adore but feel a gap so wide between you it's almost unbearable? We talked about it once, years ago. James looked at me with those patient eyes of his and said, "I'm sorry, Sarah. I just can't." And that was it. He told me I was everything to him, that no one could love me the way he did. He wasn't wrong. He's always been there for me in every way but this one. He said if I left, I might find passion somewhere else, but I'd never find love like his again. And I believed him. I told myself it didn't matter, that affection was enough, that having someone who'd hold my hand in the darkest moments was more important than anything physical. And for a while, that was true. But lately, it feels like a lie I've been telling myself just to keep going. Our life looks enviable on Instagram. Weekend brunches at trendy Boston restaurants, charity galas where James, the respected pediatrician, is always honored for his work. Summer weekends at our beach house in Cape Cod. I post the perfect photos, and the likes pour in. Relationship goals, they comment. If they only knew. Last week, we went to the Hamptons for a family gathering. It was James's idea, a chance to celebrate his brother-in-law Mike's 40th birthday. The beachfront property was breathtaking, all glass and modern angles overlooking the Atlantic. James's parents were there, his sister Emma and her husband Mike. We laughed, we ate, we toasted Mike's milestone with expensive champagne under the stars. It should have been perfect. I should have felt lucky to be there, surrounded by people who care about me. But I felt hollow. The kind of hollow that no ocean view, no sunset, no amount of laughter can fill. James was his usual self, doting and gentle, but distant in ways he probably didn't even realize. Emma W. As her usual bubbly self, documenting every moment for her 100,000 Instagram followers. And Mike. Mike was different. He's always had a certain charm, a way of making you feel like you're the only person in the room when he talks to you. That night, he noticed something in me that no one else did. Or maybe he's just the only one who dared to say it out loud. I keep going over it in my head, trying to pinpoint the exact moment everything started to unravel. Was it when we were sitting at the dinner table and our eyes met for just a little too long? Was it the way he asked how I was doing, really doing, like he actually wanted to know? Or was it later, when the others had gone to bed and we stayed up talking under the stars? I don't know. All I know is that something shifted that night, and I couldn't stop it. I should have stopped it. I should have gotten up, gone to my room, and locked the door. But I didn't. And now I don't know how to live with what I've done. Mike has been part of the family for as long as I can remember. He married Emma when they were just kids, practically. 20 years together, 2 children, and a life that on the surface seems picture perfect. They just bought a house in Greenwich, a beautiful home with a big yard where their kids can play. It's the kind of life people dream about. But dreams are fragile. Mike and Emma, they've had their struggles. Everyone does. The pressure to maintain their lifestyle in one of America's most expensive zip codes is crushing them. They're not in a position to split up, not without losing everything they've worked so hard to build. And Emma, she adores him. She always has. If she ever found out. God, I can't even finish that thought. I can't imagine the pain it would cause her or their kids. And yet, knowing all of that didn't stop me. It started so innocently, at least that's what I tell myself to make it seem less awful. Mike was just being kind, asking how I was doing, paying attention in a way that felt different. He's always had a way of making people feel at ease, like you can tell him anything and he'll never judge you for it. But this time, it wasn't just kindness. There was something else in his eyes, something that made my heart race and my stomach twist. I tried to ignore it. I told myself I was imagining things, reading too much into a casual glance, a friendly gesture. But deep down, I knew I wasn't imagining anything. During the vacation, James was his usual self, distant in ways I've grown accustomed to. He spent most of his time with his parents, helping them plan excursions, taking care of the little details like he always does. He wasn't neglectful exactly, but he wasn't present either. And Mike noticed. He saw the cracks in the facade I'd been trying so hard to hold together. There was a moment, just a small one, that I keep replaying in my mind. We were sitting by the infinity pool on afternoon. The kids were splashing around, Emma was live streaming her day in the life content for her followers, and Mike and I were on opposite sides of the table. I was staring out at the water, lost in my thoughts, when he said, "You okay, Sarah?" It was such a simple question. But the way he asked it, it wasn't like how people ask when they're just being polite. He really meant it. I looked at him, and for a second, I forgot how to speak. There was something in his expression, a mix of curiosity and concern that made me feel exposed, like he could see right through me. "I'm fine," I said, forcing a smile. But he didn't let it go. "Are you sure?" he asked, his voice softer this time. "You seem, I don't know, tired." I wanted to tell him everything in that moment. I wanted to say no, I'm not okay. I'm lonely, and I feel invisible, and I don't know how much longer I can keep pretending everything's fine. But I didn't. I just nodded and said, "I'm fine." And then he smiled at me, not the kind of smile people give out of obligation, but a real one. Warm, understanding, like he knew exactly what I wasn't saying. That's when it started. It wasn't anything overt, just small moments. A shared laugh, a lingering glance, the way his hand brushed against mine when he passed me a drink. They were nothing, and yet they felt like everything. There was another night, not long after that, when everyone had gone to bed except the 2 of us. We sat outside on the terrace, the sound of the waves filling the silence between us. We talked about nothing and everything. He told me about the stress he's been under at work, the pressure of trying to provide the lifestyle Emma showcases on social media. The fights they've been having about money, about her spending, about the image they need to maintain. And I told him more than I should have. I told him about James, about how much I love him but how lonely I feel. How it's been 10 years since we've been intimate. How sometimes, late at night, I lie awake wondering if this is all my life will ever be. Mike listened. He didn't interrupt or try to fix anything. He just listened. And when I looked at him, I saw something in his eyes that I hadn't seen in a long time. Desire. I should have walked away then. I should have said good night and gone to bed. But I didn't. I stayed. And now I can't undo what's been done. The night air was warm, heavy with the scent of salt and jasmine. The waves crashed against the shore below us, a rhythmic sound that seemed to match the beating of my heart. Mike moved closer, his shoulder brushing against mine. "Sarah," he said, my name soft on his lips. I knew what was coming. I knew I should stop it. But when he leaned in, when his lips found mine in the darkness, I didn't pull away. Instead, I kissed him back with all the hunger and loneliness I'd been carrying for years. His hands were in my hair, on my face, pulling me closer. Everything else fell away, the guilt, the consequences, the reality of what we were doing. All that existed was this moment, this feeling of being wanted, being seen. We stumbled inside, trying to be quiet, though my heart was pounding so loudly I was sure it would wake the whole house. In the dim light of the guest room, we paused. "We shouldn't," I whispered, even as my hands reached for him. "I know," he replied, but neither of us stopped. And in that moment, as clothes fell away and hands explored forbidden territory, I felt more alive than I had in years. It was desperate and passionate and wrong in all the ways that made it feel so right. Afterward, as we lay there in the darkness, reality began to seep back in. The weight of what we'd done settled over us like a heavy blanket. "I should go," I said, my voice barely audible. But before I could move, his lips found mine again, and we lost ourselves once more in each other. Twice in one night. Twice too many. And now, as I lie here in the early morning light, I don't know how to face the day ahead. How to face James, sweet James, who trusts me completely. How to face Emma, who shares every detail of her life with her followers but has no idea what's happening behind the scenes. How to face myself in the mirror, knowing what I've done. The sun is rising over the Atlantic, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. Another perfect Instagram moment in what looks like a perfect life. But appearances can be deceiving. And sometimes, the most beautiful facades hide the deepest cracks. The morning after feels like waking up in someone else's life. Sunlight streams through the windows, harsh and unforgiving. I can hear voices downstairs, Emma's laugh, James making coffee. My stomach churns with guilt. I force myself to shower, to dress, to put on makeup like it's any other day. But it's not any other day. Everything has changed, even if no one else knows it yet. In the kitchen, James greets me with his usual smile. "Morning, honey. Coffee?" His kindness feels like a knife to my heart. I take the cup with trembling hands, careful not to meet his eyes. Across the room, Mike is helping his kids with breakfast. He doesn't look at me, but I can feel his presence like electricity in the air. Emma's filming everything for her morning routine video. Family breakfast in the Hamptons, she chirps to her phone. Aren't we just living the dream? I want to scream. Instead, I smile for her camera, playing my part in this performance. The rest of the morning passes in a blur. Everyone's packing up, getting ready to head back to their regular lives. James is helping his parents load their car. Emma's taking one last set of photos by the pool. And Mike catches my arm in the hallway when no one's looking. "Sarah," he whispers, his voice urgent. "We need to talk. But we can't. Not here, not now. Maybe not ever." I pull away, my heart racing. The drive back to Boston is torture. James talks about work, about plans for the week ahead. I make appropriate noises, nod in the right places. But my mind is back in that guest room, replaying every moment. Every touch, every kiss, every whispered word. The guilt is overwhelming. It sits in my chest like a stone, making it hard to breathe. Days pass, then weeks. Life goes on, somehow. I go to work, attend meetings, make dinner. I post carefully curated photos on Instagram. Date night with the hubby. #blessed. Sunday brunch with my favorite person. #marriage goals. Each hashtag feels like a lie. Emma calls regularly, as she always has. But now her voice makes me flinch. She talks about Mike, about their life together. He's been so distant lately, she confides one evening. I don't know what's wrong. I want to throw up. The texts start coming a month after the Hamptons. Mike, I can't stop thinking about that night. Mike, do you regret it? Mike, we need to talk, Sarah. I delete them all, but they burn in my memory. One afternoon, he shows up at my office. We can't keep avoiding this, he says, closing my door. He looks as haunted as I feel. Dark circles under his eyes, tie slightly askew. There's nothing to talk about, I say, but my voice shakes. It was a mistake. It can never happen again. He runs his hands through his hair, frustrated. Is that what you really want? No, it's not what I want. What I want is dangerous. Impossible. What I want would destroy everything. It doesn't matter what I want, I tell him. We have responsibilities. People who love us. Trust us. And what about us, he asks. Don't we deserve to be happy? The question hangs in the air between us. Happy. When was the last time I was truly happy? Not just content, not just getting by, but really, deeply happy? Please leave, I whisper. He does, but not before touching my hand briefly. The contact sends electricity through my body. That night, James notices something's wrong. You seem distracted lately, he says over dinner. Is everything okay at work? I almost tell him then. Almost let the truth spill out between bites of pasta. But I look at his kind face, his worried eyes, and I can't. Just stressed, I lie. Big project coming up. He accepts this without question. Trusts me completely. It makes everything worse. The weeks turn into months. Summer fades into fall. Emma's Instagram becomes filled with pumpkin spice lattes and apple picking photos. Fall family fun. #blessed #autumn vibes. I see Mike in these photos, smiling with his kids. Playing the role of perfect husband and father. Just like I'm playing the role of perfect wife. We're all such good actors. The holidays approach, bringing with them more family gatherings. More opportunities for stolen glances and accidental touches. More chances for everything to fall apart. Thanksgiving is at Emma and me. 'Cause new house in Greenwich. I almost make an excuse not to go. But that would raise questions I can't answer. So here we are, gathered around their elegant dining table. Emma's documenting everything for her followers. Thanksgiving with the fam. #gratitude #family. If they only knew what we're all really grateful for. That our secrets are still safe. That the facade hasn't cracked. Yet. Mike carves the turkey while Emma films. His hands are steady, but I notice the tension in his shoulders. James helps serve the sides, ever the dutiful brother-in-law. The kids chatter about school and friends. Normal family dinner conversation. But underneath it all, there's a current of electricity. A dangerous undercurrent that threatens to pull us under. After dinner, while everyone's in a food coma watching football, Mike and I end up alone in the kitchen. Loading the dishwasher, an innocent enough task. But the space between us crackles with unspoken words. "I miss you," he whispers, passing me a plate. "Don't," I warn. "We can't. Can't or won't. Both." But even as I say it, I know I'm lying. Because the truth is, I miss him too. Miss the way he looks at me like I'm really there. Not just someone's wife, someone's sister-in-law. But me. Sarah. The drive home that night is silent. James falls asleep in the passenger seat. I grip the steering wheel until my knuckles turn white. Trying to hold on to something solid. Something real. But what's real anymore? The marriage I'm trying to save? The affair I'm trying to forget? The person I pretend to be on social media? Or the woman who feels like she's drowning in secrets? December arrives with its usual flurry of holiday parties. Each one a new performance to perfect. Standing next to James at his hospital's Christmas gala. Smiling for photos at Emma's influencer event. Pretending everything's fine. Everything's perfect. But nothing's perfect. Not anymore. The cracks are starting to show. In the way Mike's hand lingers too long when he helps me with my coat. In the way I can't meet Emma's eyes when she talks about her marriage. In the way James looks at me sometimes, like he's trying to solve a puzzle. One night, at another family dinner, Emma makes an announcement. She's pregnant. Their third child. We weren't planning it, she beams, but we're so excited. Everyone cheers, hugs, celebrates. I run to the bathroom and throw up. Mike finds me there later, pale and shaking. "I can't do this anymore," I tell him. "I know," he says. But neither of us knows what that means. What happens next? How do you stop a train that's already in motion? How do you fix something that's so thoroughly broken? The new year approaches, bringing with it the weight of resolutions. Of promises to be better, do better. But some promises are harder to keep than others. And some secrets refuse to stay buried. No matter how deep you try to bury them. Janu. Ari arrives with a blanket of snow and fresh complications. Emma's morning sickness is constant. She calls me daily, seeking comfort, sharing her fears. Each conversation feels like another betrayal. Mike texts me on a cold Tuesday morning. "We need to meet. Please." I know I should ignore it. Delete it like all the others. But something in me breaks. We meet at a small coffee shop in Cambridge. Far from our usual haunts. Far from anyone who might recognize us. He looks tired, worn. Like the weight of our secret is crushing him too. "Emma's so excited about the baby," he says, staring into his untouched coffee. "She talks about it constantly." I feel sick again. "Why did you want to meet, Mike?" He reaches across the table, takes my hand. "Because I'm in love with you." The words hang between us like smoke. Dangerous, suffocating. I pull my hand away. "Don't say that. It's true." It doesn't matter if it's true. But it does matter. It matters because I feel the same way. And that makes everything infinitely worse. I leave the coffee shop feeling like I'm underwater. Everything muffled, distant. That night, James notices something's wrong. Of course he does. He's always been perceptive about everything except what matters most. Sarah, he says softly. Talk to me. And suddenly, I can't hold it in anymore. Do you ever wonder if we made a mistake? He looks up from his medical journal, confused. What kind of mistake? Getting married. Staying together. The words come out before I can stop them. His face pales. Where is this coming from? I can't tell him the truth. Can't tell him about the Hamptons. About Mike. About the hollow place inside me that's been growing for years. I'm not happy, James. It's the first honest thing I've said in months. He sets down his journal, takes off his reading glasses. I know. This surprises me. You do? I'm not blind, Sarah. I know things haven't been right between us. We sit in silence for a long moment. Is there someone else? The question hits me like a physical blow. I shake my head, the lie bitter on my tongue. No. There's no one else. He believes me. Of course he does. James has always believed in me. Even when I stopped believing in myself. The next day, Emma calls. She's had her first ultrasound. It's twins, she says, her voice trembling with joy. Twins. The room spins. I make the appropriate excited noises. Ask the right questions. But inside, I'm screaming. Mike calls an hour later. Did you hear? Yes. Sarah. Don't. Please don't. But he continues. I can't do this. I can't pretend anymore. You have to. We both do. For how long? Forever, I want to say. Until it kills us. Until we forget what happiness feels like. Instead, I hang up. February brings more snow, more complications. Emma's pregnancy is high risk. She's on bed rest, constantly worried. I visit her, bringing Mag. Azines and gossip. Playing the role of devoted sister-in-law. While her husband's words echo in my head. I'm in love with you. James suggests marriage counseling. We need to fix this, he says. Whatever's wrong, we can work through it. I agree, even though I know it's hopeless. How can we fix something when he doesn't know what's really broken? The counselor's office is warm, welcoming. We sit on opposite ends of a beige couch. Talk about communication, intimacy, trust. I want to laugh at the irony. Or cry. Maybe both. March comes in like a lion. Emma's confined to hospital bed rest. The twins are in distress. Mike is falling apart. I need you, he texts late one night. Please. I meet him at the hospital. In the fluorescent-lit cafeteria at 2 a.m. He looks destroyed. I can't lose them, he says. The babies. Emma. My family. I take his hand under the table. You won't. I've already lost you. You never had me to lose. But that's another lie. He's had me since that night in the Hamptons. Maybe even before. April brings rain and decisions. Emma's stable, but still hospitalized. James is trying so hard to fix us. Planning date nights, weekend getaways. Making an effort in ways he hasn't in years. It should make me happy. Instead, it makes everything worse. Because I know what I have to do. What I should have done months ago. I pack a bag while James is at work. Write him a letter explaining everything. Well, almost everything. Some secrets are better left buried. I tell him I'm sorry. That I love him, but not enough. Not in the right way. That he deserves better than what I can give him. I leave my wedding ring on top of a letter. Then I drive. No destination in mind. Just away. Away from Boston. Away from James. Away from Mike and Emma and the mess I've made of all our lives. I turn off my phone. Delete my social media accounts. Disappear into anonymity. It's better this way. Better than watching everything explode. Better than seeing the pain in their eyes when the truth comes out. Because the truth always comes out. Eventually. But I won't be there to see it. I'll be gone. Starting over. Somewhere where no one knows my name. Or my story. Or the secrets I carry. Maybe someday I'll forgive myself. Maybe someday they'll forgive me too. But for now, I drive. Watching Boston disappear in my rearview mirror. Along with everything I've ever known. Everything I've ever loved. Everything I've ever destroyed. The rain falls harder. Washing away the past. Making way for whatever comes next. Even if I have no idea what that might be. End.